Mathew 87.6, morning Andrew on the radio, and tech guy Mathew Dickerson, morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good to see you in the virtual sense again. It's
Yes.
becoming a regular habit, this chatting away from a couple of hundred kilometres away.
I know, right? Now,
They can't accuse us of getting too close together, can they, Andrew?
no, social distancing. Now, I know the last couple of weeks you've been hitting me up about my nostrils, and I'm very paranoid about my nostrils, and that's why I'm moving around a lot right now on camera, trying to hide my nostrils. But so I'm shooting from a different angle right now. So let's hope we've kind of nailed this. So
It was only one comment, and I'm really sorry about it now because it's become a major issue.
That's all right, Matt. You can comment. Everything else is so wrong about me anyway. The nostrils, it's kind of like the last bastion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of, yeah, someone was going to say something about him. All right. Everyone said there's something about everything else too. All right. Let's talk about Facebook, though. More exciting stuff. They're going to build a giant cable.
A giant cable. When you talk about giant cables, you're not talking about this sort of cable normally, but this is a 37,000 kilometre cable. When you think about it, the Earth's circumference is only about 40,000 kilometres, so 37,000 kilometres is a big cable. And what they're doing it for is they want to give better internet to essentially Africa. 16 countries around Africa have very poor internet access. And so Facebook's spending around about $1 billion, just a lazy billion, to run an undersea cable across and serve a lot of those African nations there. And the idea is that I think Facebook and other companies around the world have seen that there is really some huge potential there, a great opportunity to be able to get into those countries. And when you think about the average or the global average for internet access is about 6 out of 10 people have good internet access. In Africa, it's about 4 out of 10. So there's a huge amount of potential there. If they can get some decent internet access in there, Facebook believes that obviously their platform can be used, and essentially once they can use their platform, advertisers want to get on their platform. So Facebook really sees the $1 billion as a small investment in what they can eventually make out of there.
Geez, $1 billion of you, what Mark Zuckerberg's got in his left-hand pocket.
It's not a lot in the whole scheme of things and what Facebook generates in revenue. Yeah, you're right. $1 billion rolls off the tongue pretty easily for someone like Zuckerberg or for Facebook. I mean, there's a population across all of Africa, across all the nations there, of about 1.3 billion people. So when you think about all of that, it's the equivalent of, say, a China or an India. So huge amount of potential there. Not a very wealthy population there, but again, just the numbers game. I think they're looking at that and seeing that they will be able to generate some revenue out of that huge population.
Yeah, there you go. It'd be interesting to see that. And then maybe they could come to Mudgee and fix the internet issues around here, because there's still people around here that don't have internet access.
Yeah, that's right.
And the satellite one that they've got out here is just terrible at times.
And unfortunately, it all comes down to those numbers. We talk about 1.3 billion across Africa. We talk about a population out in this region. You know, you talked about 100,000 people might be in our region. So the numbers are just so small, it's harder for companies to justify large expenditure on getting internet access or whatever services we might need out here. Much harder for them to justify that, unfortunately.
Maybe we can send him a case of wine.
Maybe that'll do it. We've got one huge advantage though. When you lay an undersea cable, the biggest issue is when someone like a ship comes along and drops anchor and breaks that cable. Now, can you imagine the repair team? It's a little bit different to the repair team. You might have someone cuts through the copper at your house, sending out a repair team out to the ocean. Hey, someone's ripped through the undersea cable we spent $1 billion on. Can you just go and patch it up again? Because we don't want to run another 37,000 kilometres of that.
Yeah, I know. We had a problem at our house the other week, 37 metres of cable, and someone had just hung a wire on the side of our house. It was gone. We had no internet for like 4 days, man.
Yeah, well, probably a bit easier to fix than that underground cable or undersea. But we could say that to Facebook, send a case of wine, and also say you're not going to have problems with ships dropping anchor on your cable if you run a cable out to Mudgee.
No, there's not that much water in Windermere Dam at the moment, so I think we're good.
Yeah, that's right.
You put a cable through the bottom of Windia, it's actually pretty good. All right, Services New South Wales, they had their emails hacked in a big cyber attack.
Yeah, and it is pretty scary. We have talked about it before with ransomware attacks and various cyber attacks. And no one's immune from this. So Service New South Wales, can you imagine if you got the information on their database? Basically every adult in this state would have some information on Service New South Wales, whether it be their driver's licence or some other licences that might be there, just ID cards. So you would essentially have access to all of that information. This one, luckily at this stage, hasn't actually gotten into their entire database. What they did was they sent out a phishing email, and unfortunately 47 staff in Services New South Wales basically clicked on that phishing email and exposed their email, but they haven't exposed all the information. But there's forensic specialists that are going through now and they're analysing all the email accounts and they're looking at exactly what happened there. But it is pretty scary to see how easy it is for some information to be exposed. At this stage, we don't know how much. Some information has been exposed, but not everything at this stage.
I was amazed, Matt, because with working in radio, you get a bit nomadic. And I spent about a decade away in other states. And I was amazed when I came back to New South Wales and I went to transfer my license over. And I sat there and I thought, oh, yeah, I'm going to get some new details and all that kind of stuff. I came back to New South Wales and they reissued me with a license with my old license number on it and all that kind of stuff. Once you're on a database, you're on a database and you stay there for a very long time.
Yeah, and you can imagine how valuable that information would be to some people for a whole range of legitimate and illegitimate reasons, and just being able to market to those people from all those names, addresses, dates of birth. That it would be absolute gold for a marketing company.
Yeah, absolutely. As my Facebook feed is going to come up and see in moments, because no doubt we'll talk about something and it'll appear on my feed.
That's right.
I'll get like 7 ads for Services in New South Wales coming up on my Facebook feed. You watch. Apple, they got some AirPods coming out now. This is a pretty cool idea because Apple have got the in-ear pods, but now they're going the over-ear, aren't they?
This is their first foray into the over-ear headphones. And again, Apple doesn't like to do things the same as everyone else. They want to do it better than everyone else or come up with more innovative ideas. So they're talking about these being the smartest headphones available, which you kind of take with a grain of salt. Smart headphones, what's that mean? Yeah. One of the things they're talking about with their headphones is that forget about the old left and right, picking up the headphones, looking for the little tiny L stamp there somewhere. You put these headphones on and automatically it will detect the left ear and the right ear. And you might think, well, that's not that important. Listen to music, it's in stereo, that's great. But if you're watching a movie, for example, an action movie where a car goes screaming across the screen, it's a bit weird if you see that car go from left to right on your device, but the earphones, it goes from right to left. So it will automatically detect left and right and obviously make changes accordingly there. It'll detect when they're taken off the ears. So if you take them off your ears and hang them around your neck to order your coffee or whatever you might be doing, then it will know that they've been taken off the ears and then stop the music that's playing and then start again when you put them back on. So little features like that. They'll have some noise cancelling, and then you'll be able to do the same as the AirPod Pros. You'll be able to have noise cancelling completely noise cancelled or noise cancelling with some ambient noise, so you don't step out onto the road as that car's about to scream down the main street of Mudgee. You'll be able to hear the car even though normal background noise will be taken out. So some little innovative ideas, just pushing the envelope and trying to do it better. And we've had headphones around for a long time, but it's great to see we're still improving those headphones and still improving some of those features. So keep an eye out for those by about the end of the year.
Yeah, interesting. It's kind of weird that they've gone out on their own on this because Apple once had a deal with the Beats headphones.
Well, the deal involved them just paying them a lot of money and taking the company over, which is the way Apple normally does their deals. They say, we'd like that, thanks, and here's a truckload of money. Can you take that? And most of those companies say, yeah, we'll do that for you. So they've still got the Beats headphones. They still own that particular company, and they're still marketing and selling those. But these are the first Apple-branded headphones they'll have.
You're actually going to make me look this. Hang on, I'm taking my headphones off to see if I actually do put them on the right way. And no, I had the left on the right and the right on the left. I've now changed them over.
Right. Well, lucky it was only me chatting to you the other end, wasn't it? An action movie going.
Headphones in our industry just become this thing you just stick on your head, and because you only ever use them to listen to your own voice or to hear when the end of the song's kind of finished, you don't pay that much attention to it. It's like they're on your head for a limited amount of time, and then you just throw them on the desk and you're kind of good. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. No, it'd be interesting to see those. I might have to get a pair. Elon Musk, now he is the flavor at the moment of Elon. And I know he was going to put some tunnels out here somewhere, but apparently this is happening in Vegas now.
Yeah, there was some talk, if you remember, there was some Polly who sent him a tweet and said, hey, can you tunnel under the Blue Mountains for us and make it easier for people out in Mudgee to access the Sydney market? And of course he said, sure, we'll have it done in some ridiculous time frame for some minuscule cost. But I think this is a proof of concept. And I've been to conventions. I remember the first convention I went to in the US, and it was actually in Los Angeles, not Las Vegas, but it was in Los Angeles. And I pulled up, or jumped in the taxi to go to the convention center, and the taxi driver said, which door do you want to go to? And I went, well, whatever, just, the convention center, thanks. He said, no, which door? Because the convention center's a mile long, and if I take you to the wrong door, you'll be walking for a mile before you get to the right door. And I went, I'll have a look on my particular documentation and see where I'm going. This one is put in, it's almost finished basically in the Las Vegas Convention Center. And the Las Vegas Convention Center is most famous for its Consumer Electronics Show each year. And that's meant to be held again in January next year. Hopefully things will be finished in terms of COVID restrictions or at least minimised. We'll have some travel again. But they've built, again, the problem is with the Las Vegas Convention Center, it's a 15-minute walk to get from one end of the convention center to the other. So they've put two tunnels under the convention center. They use something like a Model 3 or a Model X Tesla chassis as the transport. Around about 15 people, I think, can fit in that actual unit, and they go around, and it travels at speeds up to 250 kilometres an hour. So basically to get from one end of the convention centre to the other is now a minute rather than 15 minutes, and it'll be testing out this whole concept of the Hyperloop or the Boring Company's concepts that they've got. So pretty exciting, I think, to have a go in that. They'll be using it to transfer people around there, but once you get to the point where this has been proven, I think the next step will be, I'm sure Elon will be taking this to various government departments and saying, why don't you start to use these for some local transport around some of your cities rather than just use it for around a convention centre?
You get a bunch of middle-aged guys at a convention centre, and especially if a couple of them have a couple of years, it's going to be, hey, Bruce, you want to come and have a go at this? Come and have a go. Yeah, don't worry about that new hype thing over there. Come and have a go at this. It's going to be the super fun happy ride all day.
I think you're spot on. And I can just imagine you get to nighttime at a convention and you get a bit of alcohol going around as well.
Oh, yes.
So have a few beers, get on this thing. Now, 250 kilometres an hour in a vehicle or a train that takes time to accelerate might be one thing, but when it's only got to travel a short distance, it's probably going to get to that 250 kilometres an hour pretty quickly. So I can imagine they'd probably have a few people feeling a bit queasy if you've had a few beers and you jump in this thing that gets you up to 250 very quickly. Maybe not great nighttime convention sort of fun.
Someone's going to have the challenge out there to see who's the first one to hurl in it.
I'm sure it won't take long.
Yeah, and then someone will graffiti inside the cab, Reg hurled first. You know what I mean?
7th of January, 2021, Reg was here.
That's right. Now, live streaming, it's the new thing, but it's given a new kind of, well, we're going to use the word life to funerals and COVID-19 restrictions, hasn't it, Matt?
Well, I wasn't sure if you said live streaming or live streaming there, but yeah, funerals, it's one of those things that at the moment it's pretty tough when you only had a couple of people allowed to go to a funeral. Now up to 10 people. I hope I get more than 10 people at my funeral, Andrew. 10 seems almost a bit disappointing in terms of immediate family. That's about it. But it's a big step for funeral directors. It almost seems like something you want to be there in person and really pay respects to the person that's died. But when you can't do it through government regulation, what do you do? And so funeral directors are live streaming, and they're finding that in one example, 250 people watched the funeral. And when you think about it, you don't usually have a lot of time to plan to get to a funeral. You might have to travel large distances to get to a funeral. Being able to watch it online is quite a nice way to still be part of the funeral, still support the people that have lost someone, a loved one, and really pay your respects, but be able to do it that can fit in with your lifestyle, and at this stage will fit in with government regulation. So I think it's something that we'll see more of when we come out of all our restrictions. I think we'll see live streaming as one of the options that you tick when you're going through and planning a funeral.
It is very sad, especially if you've lost a loved one during this kind of COVID crisis, because, funerals really aren't here for the living. You know what I mean?
It's about supporting those people. Obviously,
Yeah.
we don't know where the person's gone after they've passed away, but supporting those that are left there, I think, is really important. And this is a nice way to do it. I actually did one for a friend many years ago. One of his parents died, and he asked me what he could do because he had a sibling that was overseas that just couldn't make it home in time for the funeral. So I actually set up a one-to-one stream, as it was at that point in time, so they could actually feel like they were still participating in the funeral. But this is taking it to the next level and basically having it as an option where you'll have a proper videographer there, you'll have some decent connectivity and allow people to basically connect in and watch that funeral.
I'm coming back to haunt the guy that's live streaming my funeral because I'll just turn around and go, that shot's not right. You need to position over there.
What are you trying to do going up the nose of the person doing the eulogy?
Yeah. You can see my nostrils and no. Now, this is interesting that science has kind of got into the camera world and they've created the world's fastest camera. How many shots can this thing take, Matt?
Well, we think it's pretty flash when you get a new smartphone and it might do 1,000 frames per second, and we see some stuff on TV with some really super slow-mo stuff and it's tens of thousands of frames per second. This thing does 70 trillion frames per second, and unfortunately you can't duck down to your friendly electronics store and pick up one of these cameras. It's a fairly specialised camera. But what happens, which is quite cool, is when you see this stuff used at such a specialised level, the technology that's used in a camera like this in years to come will flow down to the smartphone that we go and pick up for a couple of $1,000s at our local friendly electronics outlet. So this thing is used for things such as nuclear reactions. You want to look at what happens inside a nuclear reaction. We want to see what happens with radioactive decay. Being able to see a lot of frames per second is important, and 70 trillion frames per second is a lot of frames per second. So it'll be used for those really specialised areas, but look out for those improvements to come through in our smartphone that we'll buy in the years to come.
I'm so glad this is not available because my niece would fill up one of those in 2.4 seconds.
Well, I did think about that when it's recording 70 trillion frames per second.
70,
each
and it
frame
would still be not enough.
Well, but each frame is obviously a certain size. Multiply that by 70 trillion, you chew up a memory card pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, ultimate selfie.
That's right.
Yeah, and for some they still go 70 trillion photos, and I didn't find a good one. I just had to delete all of them. Do you know how long it takes to delete 70 trillion photos? Oh my god!
Yeah, exactly.
Now let's continue on here. Clean green hydrogen it can can power tractors. No way. Hydrogen in tractors?
Yeah, there are some tractors already running around Europe that are powered by hydrogen. And hydrogen's a pretty convenient fuel source. Obviously, we've got electric vehicles out there at the moment, and we've got that talked about in terms of the future of transport. But the problem is the refueling takes a bit of time. And so with a tractor that might be out there sowing a crop, you don't want to wait around for a few hours to charge up. You might only have a certain amount of time before you're sowing or you're stripping or whatever it might be. The big issue with hydrogen at the moment has been the production of the actual hydrogen. So a lot of electricity, a lot of coal-fired or coal-powered electricity is used to produce hydrogen, so it's not really that green. But there are areas now that are being used to produce green power, and there's one being set up in WA at the moment. At the moment, only 25 tonnes of hydrogen produced today, which is not a huge amount, but enough to power some tractors around there. So you go over to WA in the near future, you'll see hydrogen being produced with renewable power, and that hydrogen initially being used in our tractors. So it really is a green way to go forward in terms of production of our food and production or working in the farms.
I've said for a long time we need to find a new fuel source. And you know what? I'm going to throw a conspiracy out there because I reckon someone's already discovered it, but it's in some petroleum company safe hidden somewhere.
It may well be, but I think there's enough other sources coming forward that they won't be able to hold onto that forever. And hydrogen power is a good example of that. And hydrogen, let's face it, we've got a fair bit of hydrogen out there. We've got a bit of H2O that we can use to extract hydrogen from. So I think we've got a pretty abundant fuel source there.
Yeah. Tesla, their next battery is out at the moment.
Well, they're talking about releasing this at the end of the month. There'll be a battery day where they'll talk about this. And one of the big issues with electric vehicles at the moment is the cost of the actual battery. And one of the big costs in there is cobalt. If they can get cobalt out of the battery, then what you'll find is the battery price will come down, and that'll bring those cars closer to the cost of a normal gasoline or petrol-powered vehicle. So Tesla have partnered up with a Chinese company called CATL to come up with a battery solution that they believe will bring the cars down to reach parity with fuel or petrol-powered vehicles. So that'll be pretty exciting. End of the month, we'll look out for this. It'll be pretty exciting if this is the case. And lots of other companies around the world are trying to get to that point as well, where they're producing batteries that are cheaper or matching petrol-powered cars in price. And if you get that down even to close to the cost of a petrol car, the cost of running an electric car is so much cheaper than petrol-powered cars. I think that'll be the tipping point where suddenly we see electric vehicles being mainstream.
Yeah, because there was all the hype a couple of years ago about electric vehicles, and every car manufacturer was rushing an electric vehicle out. All of a sudden, have you noticed?
Well, it has gone a bit quiet, and again, I think it's just about that cost. Lots of car manufacturers are out there producing those vehicles, but they're just a bit dear at the moment. But I don't think we're that far away. For suddenly, it'll be a lot of hard work for all these companies to get their electric vehicles to a point, and suddenly it'll be like that snowball that you pushed up the hill, you let it go, and it gathers all this momentum. And in a few years' time, we'll be sitting around saying, "Ha, Andrew, remember when you had a petrol-powered car? Oh, how old-fashioned! How quaint was that?"
I know, right? I know. It'd be kind of where I'd still be driving around in my 2013 Land Rover going, so how much does it cost me to get that kind of battery conversion?
Yeah, and there are people doing it now. There are people doing conversions to a whole range of cars. And my favourite, I saw one the other day. A guy came in and showed me a little video. He's restored a Model T Ford and he's used an electric motor in it. So it runs... like it's a beautiful restoration of the car, but it runs with an electric motor.
That's crazy. I watch a lot of car shows on Discovery Turbo, Matt, and there was a guy who did a VW bus with an electric motor.
Yeah, yep.
And,
there's people out there doing it. A lot of companies are doing it. You can do it yourself. There's these sort of kits you can get, or you can take it to someone and they convert them over. I've seen some fantastic performance vehicles, Ferraris and Lamborghinis converted. I've seen Porsches converted and Model Ts and, as you say, old V-dubs. So there's a whole range of them being out there. There's a guy in Dubbo who's got an old Mazda Ute that he's converted himself. I think it cost me about $10,000 to convert it to an electric Ute, and it's a great conversion. So it's happening.
Yes, it is.